They laughed when my brother raised his glass and said I was proof that hard work doesn't guarantee success. Not in private. Not at some small family dinner. He said it into a microphone, in front of 200 people under golden lights, while a photographer stood 5 feet away from me with his camera lifted. And my mother laughed first. That was the part I never forgot. Not my brother's smirk, not my father looking down at his plate like he suddenly found the salad fascinating. My mother. She touched her pearls, leaned toward the woman beside her, and laughed like I was a funny little family story. Then my brother added, "But hey, every successful family needs one cautionary tale." The room laughed harder. I sat there with my hands folded in my lap, wearing the navy dress I bought on clearance, while everyone looked at me like I was the tragic example of what happens when ambition goes wrong. What none of them knew was that, 3 days earlier, I had signed the final acquisition papers for the company my brother had spent the last year trying to impress. And by the end of that night, the man standing at the microphone humiliating me would be begging me not to say one word. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The event was supposed to be my brother's celebration. Daniel Whitmore's Rising Leader Award. That was printed on the banner behind the stage. My family had treated it like a royal coronation for weeks. My mother ordered a custom gown. My father rented a private room at the Oak Ridge Grand Hotel. My sister Chloe posted countdown stories on Instagram like Daniel had discovered electricity. And me? I was invited by text. Not even from my mother. From Chloe. "Mum says you can come if you dress appropriately. Please don't make things awkward." That was my invitation. I almost didn't go. I had work, real work, the kind nobody in my family cared to understand because it didn't come with shiny business cards or loud announcements at dinner. For the past 4 years, I had been building logistics software for mid-sized construction suppliers. Boring, maybe, but profitable. Quietly profitable. My family thought I was doing freelance admin work from my apartment. That misunderstanding had saved me more than once. When Daniel asked what I did, I said, "Operations consulting." He laughed and said, "That's a nice way to say unemployed." My parents never corrected him. The truth was, I stopped explaining myself years ago. Explanation is expensive when people are committed to misunderstanding you. Still, I went to the award dinner. Not because I wanted approval, because the company giving Daniel the award, Voss and Meridian, had just become mine. Not publicly, not yet. The announcement was scheduled for Monday morning. That night was Friday. I walked into the hotel at 7:12 p.m., and the first thing I saw was a giant photo of Daniel near the entrance. Black suit, perfect smile, golden boy posture. Under the photo it said, "Integrity, leadership, vision." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because 2 months earlier, Daniel had used a stolen pitch deck to land a partnership with Voss and Meridian. My pitch deck, my projections, my supplier network, my software architecture. He didn't know I knew. That was the only reason I came. I wanted to look him in the eye before the fall began. Inside the ballroom, my mother spotted me instantly. Her smile tightened. "Oh," she said, kissing the air beside my cheek. "You made it." "You invited me." "Well," she looked at my dress. Yes, I suppose we did. My father gave me a brief nod, the kind you give a neighbour you don't like but still need to greet. Chloe looked me up and down. Simple, she said. Thank you. I didn't mean it as a compliment. I know. Her smile flickered. That was one thing my family hated about me. I no longer rushed to soften the edges of their insults. Daniel arrived 20 minutes later, surrounded by men in expensive suits and women who laughed too quickly at everything he said. He hugged my parents dramatically, kissed Chloe on the forehead, and when he reached me, he paused. Well, look who decided to show up. Congratulations, I said. His eyes moved over me with lazy amusement. Thanks. It's nice you're here. Maybe tonight will inspire you. Inspire me to what? He leaned closer. To aim higher. I smiled. Maybe. He walked away before he could notice I wasn't embarrassed. Dinner started at 8. My assigned seat was not at the family table. I found my name card at a side table near the kitchen doors between a retired accountant and a woman who thought I was hotel staff. Across the room, my family sat directly in front of the stage. My mother didn't look back once. That used to hurt. That night, it just confirmed something. They weren't accidentally cruel. They were comfortable. Halfway through dinner, an older man sat down beside me. Silver hair, calm eyes, no name tag. You're Evelyn Whitmore, aren't you? He asked. I froze for half a second. Very few people in that room knew my full name. Yes? He offered his hand. Arthur Bell. I represented Mrs. Langford. The name landed like a stone in my stomach. Mrs. Langford had been my first real client. 82 years old, sharp as a blade. She owned a small regional supply chain company and had hired me when no one else took me seriously. She died 6 months ago. I hadn't known she had a lawyer at this event. Mrs. Langford spoke very highly of you, Arthur said. My throat tightened. She was kind to me. No, he said. She was correct about you. Before I could respond, the lights dimmed. The ceremony began. Speeches, applause, corporate language. Words like excellence and innovation repeated until they lost all meaning. Then Daniel walked onto the stage. The room stood for him. My parents stood first. Chloe whistled. I remained seated. Not out of disrespect, out of clarity. Daniel gave a speech about discipline, loyalty, and building success from nothing. He talked about long nights, sacrifice, and the courage to lead. Then he looked towards me and smiled. I felt it before he said anything. Some people can't enjoy winning unless someone else is made smaller. Daniel was one of them. You know, he said into the microphone, success teaches you a lot about people. Some people rise, some complain, some wait for life to rescue them. A few people chuckled. My mother's eyes flicked towards me. Daniel continued. I have someone in my family who reminds me every day what happens when talent has no discipline. The room shifted. Not loudly, just enough. A quiet tightening. He didn't say my name yet. He wanted the room to lean in first. My sister Evelyn is here tonight. There it was. Heads turned. My face warmed, but I kept my hands still. Daniel raised his glass. Evie, I hope tonight proves that success doesn't come from excuses. It comes from showing up. A polite laugh moved across the room. Then came the line. Every successful family needs one cautionary tale. My mother laughed first. Then others followed. Chloe covered her mouth like she was trying not to enjoy it, which meant she was enjoying it completely. Arthur Bell, sitting beside me, did not laugh. He turned his head slowly toward Daniel, then back to me. Interesting family, he said quietly. You have no idea. Daniel kept talking, but I stopped hearing him clearly. Not because I was broken, because something inside me went very still. There are moments when humiliation burns, and there are moments when it freezes. This one froze. It preserved everything. The chandelier light, the champagne bubbles, my father's silence, my mother's laugh. Daniel's hand wrapped around the microphone like he owned the room. And I remember thinking, good. Let everyone see who they are before they find out who I am. When the applause ended, I stood and walked toward the restroom. I didn't run. I didn't cry. That would have made them feel powerful. Near the hallway, Chloe caught up to me. Don't be dramatic, she said. I stopped. She was smiling, but her eyes were sharp. What? Daniel was joking. You always take everything personally. He used me as a punchline in front of 200 people. Because you make it easy. I looked at her. There was a time I would have asked why she hated me so much. Now I understood. Chloe didn't hate me. She needed me beneath her. There's a difference. She stepped closer. Mum is worried you'll embarrass us tonight. Just don't make some scene. I almost smiled. I wasn't planning to. Good. But Chloe... She looked annoyed. What? You might want to stay close to Daniel after dinner. Why? Because he's going to need family. For the first time all night, her confidence cracked. I walked away. In the restroom, I locked myself in a stall and finally let my hands shake. Not from fear, from restraint. My phone buzzed, a message from Marcus. Marcus Reed was my business partner, former CFO, brutally calm. The kind of man who could read a contract like a crime scene. His message said, "Are you still at the event?" I typed, "Yes." He replied, "Good, don't leave. We found something." My stomach tightened. What? 3 dots appeared, then... Daniel's pitch deck wasn't just stolen from you. He submitted altered financials to Voss and Meridian. Your projections were changed. I stared at the screen. Then another message came. And Evelyn, he used your old company email signature on one of the early documents. For a second, the room tilted. My old company email. The one I used before I incorporated properly. The one Daniel had access to years ago when he helped me fix my laptop after it crashed. I typed, "Are you saying he tried to make it look like I approved it?" Marcus replied, "I'm saying he may have committed fraud and left your name close enough to the blast radius. The noise of the ballroom faded behind the restroom door. This was no longer just humiliation. This was liability. My brother hadn't only stolen from me, he had built a safety rope out of my name. And if the deal collapsed, he planned to let me hang. I washed my hands, though I didn't need to. Cold water, slow breath, mirror. My reflection looked calmer than I felt. That had always been my advantage. People mistook quiet for weakness. I walked back into the ballroom. Daniel was at the center of a circle near the bar, glowing with attention. My parents stood beside him like proud statues. Arthur Bell was waiting near my table. "Everything all right?" he asked. "No." He didn't ask another question. Good lawyers know silence has value. I sat down and opened the secure folder Marcus had sent. 3 documents. 1 altered forecast, 1 email chain, 1 scanned authorization page. At the bottom was a signature. My signature. Except it wasn't mine. It was close, very close, but the E was wrong. Daniel always thought details were for people below him. That was his first mistake. His second mistake was humiliating me before I had decided what to do. I forwarded everything to Arthur. He looked at his phone, then slowly put on his glasses. For the next 5 minutes, he said nothing. Then he looked at me. "Do you have proof your original materials predate these?" "Yes." "Do you have proof your brother accessed them?" "Yes." "Do you have proof you did not authorize these changes?" I looked across the room at Daniel. He was laughing again. "Yes." Arthur's expression didn't change, but his voice lowered. "Then I suggest you do not confront him privately." "Why?" "Because men like your brother behave differently when nobody is watching." That sentence stayed with me. At 9:45, the final toast began. A senior executive from Voss and Meridian took the stage. His name was Grant Keller. I knew him well. Not that Daniel knew that. Grant had been part of the acquisition negotiations. He knew I was the incoming owner. He also knew the public announcement was still sealed until Monday. He thanked the sponsors, praised Daniel, and spoke about the future of the company. Then, halfway through his speech, he paused. "I also want to acknowledge someone in the room who has played a much larger role in the future of Voss and Meridian than most people here realize." Daniel straightened. He thought Grant meant him. Of course he did. Grant continued. "This person represents the kind of leadership we value most. Quiet leadership. Precise leadership. Leadership that doesn't need applause to be real." The room settled. My mother leaned forward. Daniel adjusted his jacket. Grant looked directly at me. "Evelyn Whitmore, would you please stand?" The silence was immediate. Not soft, not confused, sharp, like a glass dropped on marble. I stood. Across the room, my brother's face changed, just slightly, but I saw it. So did Arthur. Grant smiled. "Evelyn is the founder of Whitmore Systems, the firm finalizing acquisition of Voss and Meridian's regional logistics division. Her work has already reshaped how we think about supplier movement and operational forecasting." Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. My mother's mouth opened. Chloe blinked like she had misheard. My father stared at me with the expression of a man realizing the person he ignored had been standing in the room the entire time. Grant raised his glass. "To Evelyn." A few people clapped, then more. Then the applause spread, not as loud as Daniel's, but cleaner, realer. I didn't smile. I looked at my brother. His glass was still in his hand. His knuckles had gone white. For one beautiful second, I thought that was the fall. I was wrong. That was only the first crack. Because 10 minutes later, Daniel cornered me in the hallway near the coat check. "What the hell was that?" he hissed. I kept my voice calm. "An introduction?" "You bought part of Voss." "I acquired a division." "You should have told me." I almost laughed. "You called me a cautionary tale." His jaw tightened. "That was a joke." "No, it was a decision." He stepped closer. "You think one announcement makes you better than me?" "No." "Good." "It just makes it harder for you to use my work without consequences." The colour left his face. Only for a second, but enough. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." "You need to be careful, Evie." There it was, the real Daniel. Not the golden boy, not the rising leader. The man underneath. "If you try to embarrass me because you're bitter, you did that yourself." His eyes darkened. "You have no idea what I can do." I looked past him. Arthur Bell stood at the end of the hallway, watching. Daniel noticed. He stepped back immediately. That was when I understood what Arthur meant. Daniel was brave only when he believed there were no witnesses. Before I could speak, my mother appeared. "What is going on?" she demanded. Daniel turned instantly, his face wounded. "She's trying to ruin my night." My mother looked at me, and the old pattern snapped into place. Not a question, not concern, accusation. "Evelyn, why can't you let your brother have one moment?" I stared at her. One moment. He had taken years. Credit, money, attention, trust. Now he wanted the night, too. I said quietly, "Ask him about the documents." Daniel's face hardened. My mother frowned. "What documents?" "Nothing," Daniel said quickly. "She's being dramatic." Arthur walked over. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said, calm as winter. "I would advise everyone to stop speaking until counsel is present." My mother recoiled. "Counsel? What is this?" Daniel looked at me with pure hatred. Not fear anymore. Hatred. Because I had done the one thing he never expected. I had become dangerous in a language he understood. Legal, financial, public. The ballroom doors opened behind us, and Grant Keller stepped into the hallway. He looked from Daniel to me, then to Arthur. "Evelyn," he said, "we need to talk." Daniel forced a laugh. "Grant, this is a family misunderstanding." Grant didn't look at him. "That's unfortunate," he said, "because it may also be a corporate investigation." My mother gasped. Chloe appeared behind her, phone still in hand, recording without realizing her flash was on. My father whispered, "Daniel?" And for the first time in my entire life, my brother had no answer ready. Grant turned to me. "We found additional files." My pulse slowed. "What kind of files?" Grant's expression tightened. "Files connected to your father." The hallway went completely silent. My father's face went grey. That was the moment I realized Daniel hadn't acted alone. And the public humiliation that was supposed to destroy me had just opened a door my family had spent years keeping locked. For a moment, nobody spoke. Not me, not Daniel, not my mother, not even Grant. The hallway that had been full of noise only minutes earlier suddenly felt too small. My father's face had gone pale. Not nervous, not confused. Terrified. And that was what scared me. Because in my entire life, I had never seen my father afraid. Grant looked directly at him. "Mr. Whitmore, I think you already know what files I'm referring to." My father swallowed, slowly. Daniel looked between us. "What files?" Nobody answered. That was answer enough. Something was wrong. Something much bigger than stolen presentations and altered financial projections. Arthur Bell stepped forward. "Evelyn deserves the truth." My mother frowned. "What truth?" Arthur looked at me, then at my father. "Perhaps he should tell her himself." My father's shoulders sagged. And suddenly he looked 10 years older. "I never wanted this to happen." My stomach tightened. "What are you talking about?" He closed his eyes and finally spoke. "Whitmore Systems was never supposed to belong to Daniel." The world seemed to stop. My brother laughed. A forced laugh, a desperate laugh. "What?" Nobody joined him, not even Mum. Dad continued. "The original supplier network," his voice cracked, "was built from your work." I felt my pulse hammering. "What?" "You were 23. I remembered. Late nights, spreadsheets, supplier calls, hundreds of hours. The small logistics model I had built after college. The one everyone dismissed. The one my father said wasn't worth pursuing. I stared at him. "You told me it failed." "I lied." The words landed like a punch. My mother gasped. "Dennis!" He wouldn't look at her. "I lied." I couldn't breathe. The memory hit me instantly. 10 years earlier, the meeting, the investor who suddenly withdrew, the contracts that disappeared, the emails that stopped coming, the project I thought had collapsed, the dream I thought I wasn't good enough to build. It hadn't failed. My father had killed it, deliberately. The hallway disappeared. For a second, all I could hear was my own heartbeat. "Why?" My voice barely came out. My father looked at Daniel. That was all the answer I needed. But he said it anyway. "Because Daniel needed help." Silence. Pure silence. My brother stared at him. "Dad? You were struggling." My father's eyes filled with shame. "You couldn't keep a job." My mother covered her mouth. "You were in debt." Arthur looked away. Even he seemed uncomfortable. My father continued. Evelyn's company had potential. I couldn't move. You took it? Yes. You gave it to him? Yes. You told me I wasn't talented enough. His head dropped. Yes. For the first time in years, Daniel looked genuinely shocked. Not because he felt guilty, because he had just realized how much had been done for him. Even he hadn't known everything. Grant handed Arthur a folder. Arthur opened it. Inside were old contracts, supplier agreements, early licensing documents, original ownership records. My name was everywhere. Not Daniel's. Mine. The entire foundation of the business Daniel had spent years leveraging had started with me. And there was proof. Years of proof. I suddenly understood why Grant had looked so serious. This wasn't about one fraudulent presentation. This was about a decade. A decade of theft. My mother stumbled backward. No, she shook her head. No! Dad looked at her. You knew. Her face froze. My stomach dropped. She knew. The entire time. Not everything, maybe not every document, maybe not every detail. But enough. Enough to stay silent. Enough to let me believe I failed. Enough to watch me struggle. Enough to laugh tonight. The hallway became painfully quiet. Then Daniel exploded. This is ridiculous! Grant raised an eyebrow. Is it? Daniel pointed at me. She has always been jealous. Nobody responded. That frightened him. Because for the first time in his life, nobody rushed to protect him. Not Mum, not Dad, not Chloe. Nobody. His voice rose. Everything I built, Grant interrupted, was partially built on intellectual property, now under review. Daniel's face went white. Grant continued calmly. The board has already opened an investigation. Now even Chloe looked scared. Investigation? Arthur nodded. There is evidence of fraud. Daniel stepped backward. No. There is. No. There is. The confidence disappeared, piece by piece. And suddenly I wasn't looking at the golden child. I was looking at a man who had spent years standing on stolen ground. The problem with stolen ground is simple. Eventually, it collapses. Over the next few weeks, everything unraveled. The board suspended Daniel, then terminated him. The fraud investigation expanded. Several contracts were frozen, emails were examined, records were reviewed. Every shortcut, every lie, every forged approval, every altered projection. All of it surfaced. Slowly, painfully, publicly. The award he received that night? Revoked. The promotion? Gone. The speaking invitations? Cancelled. The people who once fought for his attention suddenly stopped answering calls. Funny how quickly admiration disappears when consequences arrive. As for my father, he resigned from the family business. Not because anyone forced him, because he finally couldn't live with himself. One afternoon he asked to meet me, just the two of us. I almost didn't go. Part of me wanted him to sit with the consequences alone. But I went. He looked exhausted, smaller, not physically, emotionally. He sat across from me for a long time before speaking. I loved you. I looked at him. I know. Tears filled his eyes. Then why does it feel like I didn't? Because love without courage isn't enough. Because love that always chooses someone else leaves scars. Because every time he protected Daniel, he abandoned me. But I didn't say that. Instead, I said, "You loved me. You just loved him more." His face collapsed, and for the first time, he didn't argue. Months passed. The legal review ended. Ownership rights were restored. Compensation agreements were negotiated. Several assets transferred. Not because of revenge, because of evidence. The truth had paperwork, and paperwork is difficult to argue with. The irony wasn't lost on me. The company everyone thought I was too incompetent to build eventually became mine. Legitimately. Completely. Publicly. 1 year later, I stood on a stage. Different hotel, different audience, different life. The room was full of employees, investors, suppliers, and partners. People who respected me because of my work, not because of my last name. As I finished my speech, applause filled the room. Real applause, not family obligation, not favoritism. Respect. As I stepped away from the microphone, someone approached. A young woman, nervous, maybe 22. She smiled. "My family thinks I'm a failure." I laughed softly. "I've heard that one before." She looked embarrassed. "I just wanted to say, your story helped." For a second, I couldn't speak. Because that was the thing nobody tells you about survival. The victory isn't the money, or the title, or the building with your name on it. The victory is reaching a point where somebody else's opinion no longer decides your value. I thanked her. She walked away. And I found myself remembering that night. The ballroom, the laughter, the microphone, my mother's smile, Daniel's joke. Every successful family needs one cautionary tale. He was right. Just not in the way he thought. Because that night did create a cautionary tale. Not about failure. About arrogance. About favoritism. About what happens when people mistake silence for weakness. The public humiliation that was supposed to destroy me became the beginning of their downfall. And the funniest part? I never had to destroy them. The truth did it for me. All I had to do was survive long enough for it to come out.